May is Mental Health Awareness Month. We have someone today who's going to talk about that and share the experience they went through as a family for his own brother. His own brother unfortunately took his life in 2021. Please welcome Harrison Kandea. First of all, Harrison, thank you for being here. We'd like to say our condolences from our Veggie Media marketing team. It takes a lot of courage to do what you're doing today. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, what was it like growing up? You, your brother, like your childhood. Where did you guys grow up?
We grew up around Saint Michel area.
Okay.
We moved a few times, but not too much. You know, our parents were immigrants, and yeah, we had a pretty good upbringing. You know, we went to school, and after school we would come home, play sports, you know, or play outside, play video games. We had a lot of freedom, you know, like compared to most people, especially considering the fact that the neighborhood that we grew up in wasn't so bad, you know, so our parents would let us be outside often, and yeah, that's pretty much it. But
you played when you say you played sports, like what did you play?
Well, we lived in the neighborhood where we had a lot of people our age, so kids our age, so we would just play like kickball or soccer or hockey or tag, you know, like depending on the age, you know. So we were very active when we were younger.
So you're the oldest one in the family, all right,
yeah.
and then you have Abisan and then
my sister.
Okay, all right. Abisan is pretty he's very knowledgeable. He played soccer.
Yeah.
So how did you know that he was going through the mental health issues? How did it come about? Do you know? Have you any ideas like what happened?
To be honest, we didn't know. Our family didn't know anything until his first attempt, which was in 2018. So prior to that, we didn't really know what was going on, and you know, like we had really no way of knowing because we had a lot of freedom in our family. So I guess if he was going through like some sort of crisis, he wouldn't come home, or if he would come home, it will be late and then it will be hidden. So we had I really had no awareness, and I don't think my parents either, up until his first attempt, and it came as a shock, you know. But prior to that first attempt, I noticed that like he wasn't looking so good, you know, like you can tell like the way he was, there was something wrong, but no way, like there was no chance that we thought like, you know, it was at a point where he would attempt suicide. So, you know, like I tried to like organize a party for him, you know, because I saw that he was being a little bit down. So I invited a lot of our friends over to our house, and but even then, like he wasn't too happy. And then what's crazy is that prior to his first attempt, he was leaving out of town. He went to Manitoba for some sort of job. So that's really one of the incentives I had, was to really cheer him up before he left. And yeah,
he's going to a job.
He was supposed to be working, okay. And then I don't think he even lasted maybe 2 days. Like I think after 2 days he was already back in town, and that's when he attempted. And I didn't even know he was back. That's how crazy it was. It was that apparently he couldn't function anymore. He told my his best friend and some of his friends that he couldn't function. He told my parents too. And they went to go pick him up at the airport when he arrived, and that's it. That morning I left to work, and yeah, he attempted that day, and it was just very like it was sudden, but it wasn't something like, you know, when my dad called me, I was at work. My dad called me and he's like, "This is what happened," and like I wasn't shocked. You know what I mean? Like I was shocked in the sense that this happened, but like it wasn't something that came out of the blue, because I saw that he was I saw that he was sad, you know, but it happened, and then I drove back home, and it was a big chaos between trying to figure out where he was going, where the ambulance was taking him, and whatnot. And
were you in this family as the oldest child? Did you have the responsibility of like not letting your parents know too much, but also trying to find out a lot before all this happened? Or was it all an open conversation?
No.
Everyone in the family knew about it.
When this first happened, or like prior to
first happened?
No, like everyone knew. Like it was like as soon as it happened, like, you know, I messaged some of like our close friends, and then they met us at the hospital, like where he was recovering from his first attempt, and yeah, like it wasn't something where I would try to hide it from my parents or hide it from his friends. No, it was none of that. It was just that I didn't know, you know, and like I guess my parents didn't know, my sister didn't know, and I don't think any of his friends knew to what extent. Maybe certain people knew, but not to the point where they came and told us that there's something off, you know. But yeah, that's how it is, you know. Like sometimes when you have when you have people going through these issues, they try to keep it internal, you know. They try to keep it hidden from people, and unfortunately, if he would have been more open to getting help or seeking out friends, or maybe even telling his friends to tell, like, you know, his family members, maybe we could have helped him. We could have possibly saved him, but this is just the way it is, you know.
Then I'll assume that a lot of life, even after the first attempt, changed for you guys, right? Like how
after the first attempt, it was kind of it was kind of shocking to see the way he was. You know, he didn't want to live. Like, you know, in the hospital, he kept telling us, you know, he doesn't want to live. He wants to die. Every single day, he would tell us he wants to die. And at first, he wasn't even able to write or speak, right? So he wasn't able to speak, and even the writing he had a pretty intensive surgery to save his life. So when he would write, it would be really bad. It would be shaking and stuff, and that's all he would be writing. You know, he'd be writing, "I want to die, I want to die, I want to die." And for us, it was kind of like for me especially, I was kind of like shocking, because I thought like what happened was a case of you know, like he completely lost his mind, and when he attempted suicide, it was like he wasn't in control, and that's what I thought at that time. You know, like it was like a one-off thing, and he wasn't in control, but even when he was telling us in the hospital that he wanted to die, I thought he was telling us he wanted to die because of what he did, you know, his first attempt, and he didn't want to live
as a regret,
like with the consequences, you know, like, because we didn't know if he was going to be able to talk again, or if he was able to live a regular life. Like, it was just unknown, you know. You know, at first, my dad thought he died, you know, like our parents thought he died. That's how he was, you know. Like the police officers didn't know if he was going to survive or whatnot. So it was kind of a miracle that the doctors saved his life, and he was very thankful too. Like, you know, like he thanked the doctors, he thanked the nurses that took care of him, and it was pretty long. Like, he was in the hospital for a few months. So yeah, at that point we didn't know what was really going on, but in hindsight of what happened afterwards, we realized that no, like, I don't think it was a one-off thing. I think he made a decision where he didn't want to live being someone who was ill, dealing with a mental illness, so he wanted to take his life.
As you mentioned that you wished he reached out to either you or your friends or your parents, is hindsight looking, is that a challenge for men in general, or is it a Tamil person that is an even bigger challenge? What's your take on that?
Really,
what is like?
I'm not really certain whether if it's just for Tamil people or for men in general. I think almost I think everybody has certain problems that they like to internalize. You know, like whether you're a man, you're a woman, or whether you identify as something else. Like, everyone has problems that they don't like to share with other people.
Yeah.
I think that's just human nature. But maybe him being a man, or the upbringing he had where he thought that like guys had to be strong, you know, or the way he put it is that he said that whoever thought about suicidal ideations was kind of weak. That was like the image that was being portrayed to him. So like that's what he was. He's like, he kept apparently he told his friends that, you know, like you need to be mentally strong, you need to be this and that, but in the end he felt like he was not mentally strong, you know, and he didn't want to be a hypocrite. So like that's something he was fighting with. But in terms of, apart from that, I really don't know. You know, like my brother's situation is probably a more complicated situation. It's not like a simple. He didn't have like a simple case where like this is like the doctors were able to identify like a cause, or it was a complex thing. So
Yeah.
we don't know when he was himself or when he wasn't himself. Like it was very difficult, and like I said, like we had a lot of freedom and he had a lot of friends, so he didn't necessarily have to share his problems with family members. Like he had friends that he can share with, and also who knows, maybe he shared with certain friends, maybe he didn't share with other friends. But at the end of the day, it never really, like the true problems that he was battling with never really got back to us until after his first attempt. And even not even after first attempt, it's after like a few months after first attempt, the way he was interacting, you know, then he would start opening up, and then we would be like, okay, there's more to it than that.
Yeah. I imagine life is just hard after all this. How's your family and you? As I know, you have a greater responsibility as the oldest child. Me being an oldest child, we have responsibilities, especially in the Talmud family. Now yours is just, I can't even imagine how great it is now. How is it all going?
I think given the circumstances, it went pretty good. You know, like I was surprised with the way my family handled it. You know, this is not something that's small. You know, it's a pretty traumatic event. You know, not just for my brother, but for the family and the friends. And I think given the circumstances, we're pretty good. We're in pretty good shape. Like for me, the way I got over this, maybe I wouldn't say I got over it, but the way I dealt with it is that this was his wish, you know, and I respected his wish, you know, like even though like we tried to save him several times, but in the end, like if he truly wanted to go, like who am I to like stop him from going, you know? Like it's not like I'm not the one that's going to be living his life, you know. I'm not the one that's going to be living with the illness that he had, or with dealing with the consequences that he did, you know. Like sure, like I went around like being at the hospital, you know, helping him out in many different ways. Sure, that took a lot of time, but at the end of the day, like what the time I invested and the hurt and the pain that I experienced is nothing compared to what he experienced. So so for me, like thinking about it in that perspective, it was kind of easier for me to deal with it. Even still, like even with that in mind, like it's almost like every day you like think about it, you know, like what could have been, what couldn't have been, you know, what if, like, you know, I think about sometimes I think about it as like, what if I knew that my brother had come home that day, like, you know, like from Manitoba, the day that he attempted, like if I would have known, like I knew there was something wrong, because I know my brother, and it's not something like he would just quit on the job and show up back at home crying, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if I would have known that, then maybe I would have taken him to the hospital. But like I'm talking in hindsight, maybe at that time I would have just been confused, probably confronted him, be like, what's going on? But who knows, right?
Yeah.
And also like this type of experience like kind of like grows you as a person. Like when this happened initially, like I had no experience with this, you know. I didn't know anyone in my personal experience that dealt with like an illness like this. But after my brother's thing happened, like my eyes were more open, and then you notice that there are many people dealing with such situations, or if not different situations, and you just kind of see it in a different light, you know. Because I try to think about how my brother behaved prior to his first attempt, and then you realize that no, he's been dealing with some sort of issues for a long time. It's just that you never were able to recognize that. Yeah. Okay, this is why he's doing this, you know.
It's connecting dots. Almost,
like it's connecting dots, and then it's not just recognizing my brother's things. It's just you see this in other people, you know. Like you're like, okay, like.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on your point. May is actually Mental Health Awareness Month, but a lot of people don't know that. You unfortunately had to go through the experience to not become aware of it. Is there something you want to say to the people out there about mental health in general? If you had a chance now?
I think mental health is probably very important to take care of, you know, like, and I think almost everybody deals with some sort of like issues with their mental health, you know, like people like have like down days, have bad days, have super good days, whatever it is, like almost everyone has. But I think what people need to realize is that it's okay to have a down day, you know, it's okay to deal with issues where your mental health is not perfect or is not good, you know, like it's okay to be in that state, because a lot of people are in that state, and what's important is that you seek help from your loved ones, you know. If like the only people that are going to be there to help you, like true to the end, are people that love you, you know, because, and even I've seen in some cases where like even people that love you, after a certain while they give up, you know. It's just too much, it takes too much toll on them, so they give up in a certain way, not just because they don't love that person anymore, it's just that they don't have the energy to help that person, and it's affecting their own mental health, you know, their own happiness. So the most important thing I would say is if you're going through problems, is to reach out. It's to confide in your family, it's to confide in your friends, and hopefully when you do confide in those loved ones, they know what to do with that information, you know.
Yeah.
Because like all this stuff that comes with experience, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if I think of myself as younger, if somebody came and told me that, oh, I'm sad, this and that, like maybe I wouldn't have taken it seriously, you know, like to the point where it should be taken seriously, you know, like it's something that comes with experience, and I think as you get older you realize that little things matter, you know. So,
you know, what would you say is right now the government, like, is there any government hotlines or any like general hotlines for mental health? They could call a number, because like you mentioned, some people, they don't want to burden their family or friends when they're sad, when they're having a down day, but maybe they will call someone who, and honestly, just random. They just want someone to listen, right?
I think there are many like resources available for you know, like if like there are hotlines, you see it on TV all the time, or advertisements, like there's a hotline for suicide, there's a hotline for like, you know, like people who have suicidal ideations, there's a hotline for trauma, for assault and whatnot. There are all these hotlines, and there are, you know, like there are hospitals you can go to and clinics that you can go to. You can always confide in your doctor, and your doctor can tell you where to go.
Yeah.
The help is there, okay, that's for sure. But is there enough resources to really help people? That's something that I don't think there is. You know, there's so many people experiencing these type of issues that sometimes some cases take more resources than other cases, and I don't think the government or our healthcare network has those resources to allocate to those people, you know. So sure, there is help. Like, I'm not going to say that there's no help, but depending on the case and depending on how severe it is or how much energy it requires, I don't think there is enough help out there.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, even with my brother's case, like, you know, like he was in the hospital several times, you know, like he's supposed to be in the hospital if he has suicidal tendencies, but they kept letting him go because there's not enough space to keep him, you know. And they would say,
I'm
okay,
assuming COVID didn't help with that too.
No, COVID didn't help, but even prior to COVID, I think there is not enough space.
Yeah.
But for sure, COVID probably, I think what happened with COVID is that more people checked into hospitals because of they were being idle. They didn't have things occupying them, so whoever was dealing with these problems, like it showed up. And even like with my brother's case, I don't think COVID helped him at all. You know, like he felt down. You know, just like the fact that everyone was down with COVID. Like, you know, not just the illness, but the uncertainty of like, you know, there's like always this like in the news. You know, like is COVID real? Is COVID not real? Like what's going on? Like just these negative thoughts or didn't help him for sure. And and then even then, like, you know, like 2020, like sports were shut down, no restaurants were closed, this and that. So there are things that my brother used to enjoy doing that he couldn't do
anymore.
Right? So it's like, So that didn't help for sure either. But yeah, so in terms of like actual resources, there are many. Like, you know, McGill has a good center. Like all the hospitals have, they'll direct you to the right place. It's just that once they direct you, most of the time is that they rely on the family to really take care,
exactly,
to like support the patient. And not just that, the other thing that's complicated is that there's patient medical record confidentiality. So sometimes if the patient says, I don't want to share anything with my family and friends, they can't.
Looking back, in your opinion, because you'll never know for sure, but what do you think caused this illness for your brother? Is there a moment that you recall now, like thinking about it, or you actually believe something else that, without your knowledge, happened?
I don't know if there's a particular cause, I would say, per se, but I think what happens is that certain people are predisposed to certain illnesses. You know, just the genetic makeup or just the environment that they grew up in. And I think my brother probably was one of those that had a predisposition for whatever illness he had. And yeah, like when did it start? You know, like our family noticed it when he attempted that first suicide, like, you know, when he first attempted in 2018. But prior to that, you know, like for those who knew him like really well, his friends, like he had his ups and downs, you know, like he had times where he was high energy, you know, like he can do a lot of things, he was like on top of the world, and then he had his down moments, and in his down moments he would do like dumb things that his friends had to help him clean up, you know. So it's not something that just suddenly came about. It's something that probably progressed as he grew older, which is the case for a lot of like diseases, even physical diseases or physical illnesses. Like same with mental illnesses, is that as you get older, things are gonna appear, you know. So I think he was probably predisposed to this, and certain things probably happened in his life that could have triggered it, or we could say that it was like the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
So probably like in his head, in his mind, like traumatic events, like I can't really say what exactly, but he used to say, like, you know, like things weren't going well with his business, or, you know, or he would blame his first suicide attempt. He's like, I damaged my temple, like that my body was like, he regarded his body very like to a high esteem, and he damaged it. You know, he would say things like that. He would say things like, you know, like he lost some of his friends, you know, he lost some of his loved ones, and he can't get them back. He says it was his fault. So these things that probably like continued snowballing, you know, like, and it created that avalanche where he felt like he was drowning, you know.
Did the stigmas that he had to face add to it, in your opinion? Like you have to be strong. Like you mentioned it before, a man has to be strong. You cannot, you're considered weak.
For sure, I think for sure, because he used to point that out. He said, like, people judge him, you know, like for me, like I personally don't judge people, you know, like I know everyone has their problems, and I'm not the type of character to judge people, but he used to insist that people are judging him, or people don't take him as seriously as they once did. And I think
because of those businesses.
I think probably because of his attempt, and like his first attempt, and the fact that he was being diagnosed with an illness, you know. So so he used to say, like, you know, like people don't treat him the same way that they used to treat him before, and like, you know, like he even gave me like concrete examples. I'm not gonna say those concrete examples because I don't want to expose people, but yeah, for sure, he definitely faced those stigmas that, and sometimes it wasn't even like other people judging him. It's just that other people were uncomfortable because of the trauma that they experienced themselves.
Yeah, you
know, they didn't want things that like my brother reminding them of things that they were trying to escape
like they're
from.
walking on eggshells.
Yeah, so like some people like judge them, like, you know, like I don't know these people, but then there are other people, it's like I understand why they would try to keep the distance away from him because it's for their own being, you know. So it's tough. It's very tough. Like, for sure, like the stigma didn't help him at all.
Thank you so much, Harrison. It was really a pleasure, and it takes
problem.
a lot of courage. Again, we want to wish you condolences. Is there something you want to say to the audience that's watching about mental health?
Yeah, I think, like I said, mental health is one of those things that are poorly understood. But one of the most important things is that if you're feeling down or if you're feeling like there's something going on in your head, you should seek help, whether it's from a loved one or from like professional help like doctors or hospitals. It's one of the most important things, and I think the other most important thing is to be open about it. Because if you decide to hide it from people, you won't be able to help yourself. Help yourself, you know, like you need people's help, and that's the only way to overcome these things.